Hello world! Welcome to my channel. My name is Wenai, and on my channel I talk about money, investing, self-improvement, and anything that makes your life better. And today I want to talk to you about money traps that you should avoid in your 30s. Let's get started. When we get into our 30s, we started to feel like we are getting a hand of this adulthood. When you get into your 30s, you might be making a little bit more money than you're in your 20s. You might got a promotion and you're not the newest girl or guy in the workplace anymore. So you feel like you know what's going on now and you're not so poor like in your 20s that you can't afford anything. You started to spend a little bit more to enjoy your life, or maybe you just start a family. Now you're thinking about buying a house. You are planning about having a child of your own. So everything just gets so exciting and you feel like you got this. I know that feeling, and to be honest, that is a wonderful feeling. But at the same time, there are a lot of mistakes that are waiting for you in your 30s. And if you're not careful, you might get trapped into those mistakes and it might set you back for a couple years or just delay you from reaching your goal or implementing your plan. So today I want to talk to you a couple common mistakes that we make or attempt to make in our 30s. So number one, buying a house that you cannot afford. I know nowadays buying a house sounds like the most sexy and trendy thing to do, especially right now the interest rate is extremely low. So it seems normal or common among 30s who just started their family, wanted to buy a house. And when you start shopping for a house, a real estate agent or a lending specialist oftentimes push you to your limit to buy the biggest house or fanciest house, most expensive house that you can afford, which would make sense for them because they are getting paid based on the amount of money you're spending on the house, but it does not necessarily mean that's the best choice for you and your family. I know in a lot of cases, house value tend to appreciate over time, but remember, buying a house for yourself to live in is not an investment. A lot of times we hear our friends, family, or experts online saying that buying a house is the best financial decision you can make or the best investment you can make. That is not necessarily true. If you're buying a house simply for yourself and your family to live in and not generating income for you, the house is not generating income for you, instead you have to pay mortgage every month, that is a liability. That's not an asset, that's not an investment. But on the other hand, if you bought a house and you rent it out and your tenant is paying you rent to cover your mortgage, and at the same time it's generating cash flow for you every month, and over time you also get equity build up and appreciation of the house value, that is an investment. So don't justify your purchase, your house purchase, as that is an investment. That is not an investment, especially when you're leveraged up to your eyeballs where you have nothing left over every month after you pay your mortgage. That is not a smart decision. And don't buy a bigger house than what you need just to show off to your peers, to your family, to prove that you're doing well, you know what you're doing in your life. That is simply not the best choice for you and your family. Number two, buy a car that you cannot afford. I can hear a lot of guys screaming and yelling at me already because that's what they've been waiting for their whole life. Finally, they can afford a car of their dream. But a lot of times we buy cars just to impress people around us, and they don't even care. For me, I never cared for cars, so luckily I didn't have a lot of struggle with buying a car to impress other people because I personally don't care about it. But I know a lot of people try to buy a nice, fancy brand name car just to impress people around them. If buying a house is not necessarily an investment, then buying a car is definitely not an investment. Other than your status, I don't know. But if you really care about brand and you really care about which model you're driving, I would say buy a used one. If you wanted to buy a Mercedes or BMW, you can, if you look up online, I'll show you a couple examples. If you look up online, the new car tends to appreciate about 30% in the first year and a half. So if you buy a, let's say 2 or 3 years old car, especially for those brand name cars, you might be able to save about 40% of the car value and you'll get the same car. And that will have same influence on your peers as a brand new car, because for majority of the people, we don't really know what the difference is between 2019 and 2020 model unless there's a big change, which it doesn't happen every single year. So if you do care about car, I would say buy a used car, save about 30 to 50% of the value of the car, and with the leftover income every month, you can invest those money instead of paying extra money for essentially nothing. And I'm sorry if you really care about cars. I'm sorry. Number 3, going out and eating out. This is a little bit different nowadays because of the pandemic. We don't go out to the restaurant anymore and the bars are apparently not open. So I guess in a way it helped us to shape into a different reality, to get used to how to hang out with their friends without going to a bar or restaurants. But it is a very common thing that we spend too much money on, because in our 20s we don't have a lot of money. We probably work a minimum wage job where we don't have a lot to spend. So when we go hang out, we have to be careful about the restaurant that we're going to or the bars that we're going to. But now everybody's in their 30s, we have a little bit more money and we can go a little bit nicer restaurants and have a little bit view. We can have a little bit nicer environment, and you might not notice maybe each dish is a couple dollars more, but over time it's a lot of money. So because of what's happening this year, we are being creative and we are figuring out how to hang out with our friends with the current situation that we're in. So I think use that as a opportunity to change what the new normal is and get used to it. Maybe we can hang out in the backyard. We can, FaceTime each other. If you and your friends are not able to maintain your relationship without going to the bars and restaurants and spend a couple $100 every weekend, then maybe they're not the best friends. So just be mindful of how much you are spending on going out, eating out, or hanging out with your friends, because once you establish that norm with their friends, it's really hard to break. And a lot of times we don't want have a hard conversation with our friends to break a routine. So try not to set the expectations to be we have to spend a couple $100 every week to hang out, to enjoy ourselves. Just be mindful of your social bill. Coming up, number 4, not investing. Like I mentioned earlier, in our 30s, we might have a little bit more income, we might got that promotion, but we also upgrade our life before we even see the result of that increased income. So as a result, a lot of times we prioritize those upgrades over investing. And especially for people who just started a family, now they have to buy a house, they might have a small child that they need to take care of. So before you even notice, there are so many things that's asking you for money and you just don't have enough leftover to invest. And I think that's the biggest mistake and biggest regret you might have in the future, because for investing, time is everything. If you didn't start in your 20s, you're already a little bit late, but you're still okay. You can catch up because you're still in your 30s. You have a good 15, 20 years to let the compound interest work in its own power. But if you are prioritizing buying a car, buying a house, go on vacations, that sort of things, or eating out, then you are gonna fall behind. So regardless what your situation is, if your income did increase or it just started a family, make sure you prioritize investing, because you can always get a nice car later. There will be nicer cars later, and you can upsize your house, you can buy a newer house, better house, but the only thing you cannot go back to change is not investing early enough. And believe me, that is your priority, and your future self will thank you for your decision today in your 30s. So please, please, please don't prioritize your house, your car, your restaurant bill over investing. Number 5, communication about money with your partner. A lot of times in our 30s, we have a more stable relationship with a partner. Whether or not you are in a long-term relationship, or if you're married, or you became parents already, it's very important to communicate about money. Because if you are a big saver and you have a financial plan, you wanted to retire early, you wanted to achieve financial freedom or whatever your goal is, and you have a partner who spent like there's no tomorrow, then there's no way you will achieve your goal. If you have a partner who are very expensive, who expect you to buy a couple $1,000 gift for his or her birthday or Valentine's Day, or they wanted to wear all brand clothes or brand purse, or they wanted to have a fancy trip with 5-star hotels every year, or every other year, you might want to have a talk with your partner to say if that's something you're okay with and you feel comfortable with. And if not, it's better to set the expectations right before you run into arguments and disagreement down the road. When you're a unit already, you're tackling life together as a team, as a unit. So if you're not on the same page, if you don't have same goal and same direction, then you will have some problem. So talk to your partner, set the expectations right, and hopefully you can achieve the best life of your own.